Let's be honest, there's no guidebook when it comes to relationships. So we end up having to stumble through life trying to figure things out for ourselves. What if there was a podcast that found the answers for you, that provided insight to build a successful relationship and ultimately find the companionship you've always hoped for? Welcome to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we answer the questions most people are afraid to ask when it comes to lessons in life and love. It's time to master this thing called life together with your hosts, John and Ashley.
And welcome back to the Girls Ask Guys show. This is where you get your guide to love, dating, relationships, and everything else that life throws at you. And we have a awesome show coming at you because we are talking about intentional, intimate relationships.
Awesome. It really is. It's a great topic. It's so hard to define what intentional, intimacy is. And I think a lot of people don't even understand that concept, let alone apply it to their lives. I think I always say, we're always sort of groomed to believe that we have to fall in love. We have to do it this way. We have to do it this way. Someone has to stand on our door with a boombox or they don't love us. And I think if we're able to understand the concept of, intentional intimacy, then we know that that's complete bullshit and it's great.
Yeah, because when you think about how relationships develop, I think everybody's heard of the book and the course that was released eons ago, Dating with Intention or Intentional Dating. That has been twisted and retaught and repackaged so many different ways that now we have idiotic books that have 36 rules for women to date with. And then we have other people coming out with just really everything else. And everything is so convoluted and mixed up. You really have to take a step back and look at what you have to go through in order to rewire yourself to have an intentional, intimate relationship.
Mm-hmm. It's really fun though. Once you're able to cultivate that, it's just really fun to be able to do. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in a romantic setting either. Intimate relationships are important just in general. You know what I mean? Like even at work, you want to have an intimate, non-sexual, relationship with your boss. You want to be able to have these relationships that are deeply rooted in, whether it's your love of work or what you need to do, so that when you go and you deal with these people, you're not waking up every day and rolling your eyes.
Right. And if you really want a relationship to last, if you want that magic that we keep talking about, if you want that in your life, then you actually have to love someone intentionally. That's why I keep saying, I choose this person and that person chooses me. We are being intentional. And all that does is deepen your capacity to actually be intimate with somebody and also commit to each other.
Yeah. It's a lot easier said than done because as we say it, we make it seem so matter of fact. But when you're making these intimate, these really deep connections, there's so many things you have to, number one, understand about yourself and them. And number two, there's some things you have to be willing to overlook. So they're not the tallest person. That doesn't fucking matter, and we get so caught up in this physical sense of being and this concept of, I like to call it the Russian, or not Russian doll, the Barbie doll of relationships. Because I think, or Ken doll, whatever.
Yeah.
But we all put together this person in our mind who looks a certain way, who smiles, who acts a certain way, who, is this.
They look good. It's paper love. They look good on paper.
And you fantasize about this person through all your teenage, and one day you think that person's going to find you. But the funny thing is, when you find that person, they look A, nothing like you imagine. B, they're never, ever. It's never like the time you thought. Like, most of us think we're going to go to college, then we're going to get married, then we're going to have kids. Usually, you meet the love of your life when you are like tripping on a fucking sidewalk, spilling coffee all over yourself. It's something like that. So, I think the intimacy thing, it knocks out that Barbie and Ken doll that you build in your mind, and I love it because it's such a shock to your system when it happens that you almost you are at the brink of sometimes self-sabotaging. You know what I mean? Because it happens and you're like, do I deserve this? You know, it's so deep. It's so intense.
Yeah. And that's one of the problems that I've run into is that when I meet somebody and we actually the relationship starts and then it starts to go deep, they run into that self-doubt. And then they're like, I don't deserve you. I'm not ready. I mean, all of this stuff starts coming up. Or they think I have some ulterior motive and then they sabotage it that way.
Yeah.
It's just really convoluted
Bizarre.
and it's bizarre. And I'm sitting there going, but wait a minute. Explain this to me because I'm not getting it. Now, if they wanted to go, well, I really don't want a romantic relationship. Well, that's fine. We can still have a deep connection and just not be romantic.
Exactly.
You don't have to always go one way.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that as the relationship starts, you fall in love with somebody. And this is really where we come in. Because a lot of people, they fall in love and then they forget to stand in love. And the relationship just kind of willy-nilly kind of grows into this thing. And you're really not sure where the relationship is going. You're not sure if this is going to lead to marriage or not. Or if you do get married, now you're walking on eggshells because you're not sure what is expected of you. And they're not sure what you expect of them. You don't know what they need. They don't know what you need. Your desires and all that stuff is forgotten.
Yeah, and it's never talked about. I think, like I said, I blame, and I'm usually a person who's a big fan of personal responsibility, but I blame the evolution of humanity, the way that we thought things were supposed to be versus what the hell they are, dude. And the truth is, we are too far as progressive human thinkers to not discuss what we expect out of a marriage. If you want, let's say you are a man and a woman who want to get married, and you want to be the breadwinner, you want her to be the stay-at-home wife. You can't just fucking expect that. You have to get into that deep emotional talk. You guys have to be ready to be, and when we say intimacy, it doesn't mean physical intimacy. We're talking literal, like, heart, mind, and soul kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have to be able to talk about those things, be comfortable talking about those things. I mean, it's crazy. It is so bizarre. Very uncomfortable too sometimes.
Well, I actually blame it a lot on how guys were raised and what guys have been learning. Because I did a guest spot on another podcast, and I went into the history of what men have been learning, how they are supposed to go about a relationship. Now, the pickup artist community, our text actually goes all the way back to 2 CE. Now, you've heard of AD and BC. Well, but prior to BC, there was CE. And that goes all the way back to Ovid's Ars Amortora, which is the Moratora, the Art of Love, which was written back in 2 CE. It just provides suggestions that men took and learned about on how to date women and stimulate sexual interest through touch. And then it kept on going, and we've all heard about the exploits of Don Juan, and that was back in the 16th, 17th century. And then you have Casanova, which was in the 18th century. Then you have Diary of a Seducer, which was written in 1903. And there was another one, Gentleman's Guide to Specific Seduction and 8 Easy Lessons, written by Jack Hanley back in 1937. And
you gotta read. Have you read all these? Because I gotta read some of these. I mean, like, I want to read. I know all about Don Juan. I mean, like, he's a legend. But like, I gotta read this eight step guide. That one I have to read. Like, I need to know what 8 steps. You know what I mean? Like, what is actually 8 fucking steps? It's for like sit up.
Yeah, it's 8 easy lessons, but you have to think this was written back in 1937.
8 easy lessons.
Yes, and it's written by John Hanley. Being a Gentleman's Guide to Specific Seduction and 8 Easy Lessons.
Okay, there it is. Got it.
Yeah. And then there was another one that was written in 1948, and that's the guidebook for young man about town. Trying to remember. It's the way to more popularity and personality for young men.
Okay.
And then you have the book that really started it all by Robert Ellis, 1967, The Art of Erotic Seduction. That's the one that really started everything. But these are the...
Oh, it's Jack Henley.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, Jack Henley. But there's all this stuff is written for guys, and it's been passed down from one generation to the next generation to the next generation in its own way. It kind of moved into the movies and television shows, books, magazines. Think of the time frame. And that's what guys followed. That's what they learned. And
oh my goodness.
If you really take a look at it, there's nothing for women.
Nope. Well, because women kind of got it all. Honestly, most women's education back in those days, I mean, even up to like the 60s, when we think about like, all female colleges, you were just taught how to kind of cook, clean, and I mean, you weren't even really taught that much about sex or anything. You were just taught, you have to support your man. You have to be here for your man. Like, there was no body autonomy. There was no autonomy whatsoever. A woman's job was to serve a man, which kind of fed into this crazy ego circle. You know what I mean? Where it was like, there was no real power in a marriage for a woman. Hell, you couldn't even get divorced without a judge's agreement, basically. And that had to be severe. You know what I mean? Like, so I think men were actually taught more than women. Women just kind of had to adapt over time and learn shit.
Yeah. And be demure. Don't be seen in public kissing another guy and this and that and all this other stuff. And I mean, it had all these social rules put upon women, but the same rules did not apply to men.
Nope. And it was weird because this has always been my question. Premarital sex has always happened.
It's just never talked about.
Who are these guys sleeping with? Because apparently every woman in the world, but I've learned that, and we can talk about that more when we do our Bridgerton episode. But really, it was very confusing in a way where, as you learn about, this maintaining your virginity, doing all these things, they still wanted men to be, sexually exploring. And I'm like, so who are they having sex? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
It was very confusing. The whole thing is very confusing. And I think that's why we're so lost when it comes to the concept of actual intimacy. I think when as we talk about like the CE era and, before Christ and all of that stuff, when we talked about that, it was like they sort of, even if they had an arranged marriage, they kind of said, this is all we got. So we're going to learn to love each other.
Right. And that's
part of,
that's part of the intentional, where you're intentionally loving your partner and both of you are willing to cultivate an emotional connection and a semblance of spontaneity.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that you actually have to prioritize things. You have to prioritize your dates. You have to prioritize your conflicts. I'm not saying, okay, on Thursday we are going to argue.
Right.
It just means, okay, we have an argument. Everything else stops until we solve this
out.
And cultivating that friendship and sex and everything else that goes with a relationship. All that stuff, you actually have to be willing to be intentional about it. But then we also have to add in the intimacy part of it. And you actually need to believe that you can be loved, that you can accept love.
Right.
I've looked through the most popular fears that people have. And one of the biggest fears, as far as women are concerned, is one, being cheated on. Two, not being desired.
Mm-hmm.
And three, the guy getting bored because there's no spontaneity.
Right.
So they get bored with the relationship and they just move on. And as far as guys are concerned, it's really just one, cheating, being cheated on.
Yeah, which is crazy because, but that's very funny because actually that fear is so much deeper, and it really, like, if you explore the concept of how men view cheating versus women view cheating, it is so different. It is so vastly different, and men are so intense with it. Like, they're very serious about the cheating thing, and it comes down to
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Are
gonna
you
shut
looking
down.
at him? Is he looking at
Right.
you? Let me go
Right.
beat his ass.
I mean, let's not talk about the insecurity part of it. That's a whole other topic. But it's just it's very funny. And so getting back to the whole intimacy thing, those fears they're really what I would say kind of drive away intimacy to a certain degree. As someone who, I guess let's be honest, we all have those kind of fears. That's why they're so common. But those fears, I'm afraid of being cheated on. So or I'm afraid of not being desirable. So I don't want to appear too emotional, or I'm afraid of being cheated on. So I don't want to appear like I care if someone's into this. You know what I'm saying? So that'll drive away intimacy because you're afraid that an action will lead to being left. And so you stop communicating. And as we know, communication is the most intimate form of everything.
Yeah. Really, when you take a look at the intimacy portion of this, in order for the relationship to grow, you have to be comfortable with the growth being uncomfortable. And the biggest part of our course and part of what we teach is you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet as a unique person in this relationship.
Yeah.
And that's why we keep saying, if you don't know who you are, then how do you know what you're looking for? And that's part of being able to stand on your own 2 feet as a unique person and showing that other person what you offer in the relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's okay. And this is the thing. If you're looking for a long-term relationship, these things aren't always going to be there. Like you're not always going to be 100% every day. But showing the person that even when I'm not at my 100%, I'm still willing to show up as a unique individual. That's just as important too. Creating intimacy is creating an understanding that the two of you are going to grow together and you guys are going to change and things are going to change, but you're willing to put your best foot forward every day so that as change happens, you guys are receptive to it and you're willing to talk about it and you're willing to get real deep in there and get real weird if needed.
Yeah. And we had a show a while back and the question had to do with vulnerability. Is vulnerability a weakness? That's part of what intimacy is. And it's being able to be vulnerable. Now, granted, being vulnerable is not exactly the most romantic thing out there, but it is a romantic trait. But what that does is it's going to create this feeling that you have of being known. And once that person knows you better than anybody else, here's that magic part that we're talking about.
Right.
It's where you feel like you are desired, you feel like you wanted by the other person. And it is extremely fulfilling, and the feeling that you have is very, very powerful.
It is powerful. Powerful is such a good word. And that magic, it's so nice. Like, it's so nice to have magic in your life. I promise. Yeah. And you want it. Like, and you may not want it right now. You may not want it in 10 years, but I think there comes a time where you're ready and you're ready and you're ready to do this work that we're saying. Because like I said, this is easier said than done. We can talk about it for 45 minutes all we want. Yeah. But when it comes down to actually doing the work, creating the intimacy, developing the intimacy, and even really just charting the intimacy, it's a lot. And sometimes it's exhausting. But most of the time, once you're able to have conversations and once you're able to just sort of sit around with someone for an hour and not say anything and you guys are just both enjoying each other's company, it's so worth it.
Yeah. And that's part of what we have. And we can show people when you meet somebody and you're like, okay, this person has the traits that I'm looking for. They know what I'm looking for as far as a relationship is concerned. Now we can start developing that intimacy a lot more than what we've already created. What I mean by that is you have intimacy that is created naturally, and then you have intimacy that is created intentionally. When you start doing the intentional part and you know the steps that are involved with that, it's like flipping a light switch. Are you ready for this? I'm ready. Okay. Click.
Yep.
Here we go.
Flip it on. Exactly. And you're ready. And it's just, it's like it's a whole new world. It is really a whole new world. I mean, and once you're able to turn that light switch on and walk into that room, and you guys just, and this is obviously a metaphor, but you guys just sit down and you realize that this is the spot for you. You never want to get up. And then not only that, it's like even when the chair starts to feel a little uncomfortable, you guys work together to build a new cushion. I guess that's pretty good metaphor.
Yeah. And the last part of this is really where all of this starts to come together, because you've now done the intentional part. You've started the intimacy part. And now you're going to take this relationship from just a relationship to now it's going to become the relationship, which is unconditional. Because once you have the intimacy part and both of you are on board with it, it starts to become unconditional. It's going to become secure. And it's going to be between both of you. Yeah. Two unique individuals who are choosing to invest deeply into each other.
That's a great way to say it. I mean, there's really no other way to put it, because it's exactly what you're doing.
Right. And there are ways of doing this. And now you can go back and you can listen to our first season, our second season, and continue listening on the third season, and you're going to get bits and pieces, and you're going to have to start kind of putting all of them together. Or you can actually just come over and say, look, I'm ready for this. Show me how it's done. And right. We can do that. And you're going to learn how to have a healthy relationship. And you and your partner, you're going to be more than willing to go through the discomfort and the conflicts of not only your personal growth, but also the growth of this relationship that you're putting together. Because let's admit it, relationships suck sometimes. It's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, I can't sit here and go, yeah, it's going to be rainbows and unicorns for the rest of your life. There are going to be times where you're like, this is hell.
Yeah.
But you're intentionally deciding to go through this with each other, and you're willing to put up with the hard conversations and build the trust and the intimacy and actually get a deeper understanding of each other. That's what a relationship is. That's a healthy relationship. No manipulation, no walking on eggshells, no sitting there trying to figure out what the hell is going on, where we're going. You don't have to have any of that.
Nope. It's such a weird, like, it's such a huge dichotomy too. Like you said, it's never all, if your relationship's all sunshine and rainbows one day, please come on the show and teach us something that we are missing. But realistically, like, every day is going to be worth it in a certain way. And
it's going to be mind blowing. It's going to be mind blowing and amazing at times, where you just cannot get enough of the other person.
You feel so thankful that the person exists.
And other times you're just like, I don't want to look at you.
Please leave my presence, like, forever. And then come back 2 days later, because then we'll be fine. Yeah. No, seriously, that's exactly how it is, and that's always going to be. You are two people. Of course you're going to clash sometimes. I mean, like I said, if you have mastered the perfect relationship, you need to teach us, because we're open to hearing that.
I mean, that's why we have people on the show that, well, way back, season 1, we talked with several people just married, in a marriage, just an average, everyday, ordinary person who worked at Starbucks, met her husband, and had this amazing, that's where we got the Enneagrams from.
Yeah, that's right. Those are fun. Yeah. Love them. Can't shake it.
Yeah. Then we had an international model who talked about being a model and what it's like being a model in a relationship and all the struggles that go along with that. We've just had guest after guest after guest, and they talk about their relationships and how to build relationships. And we pick up little pieces from them. And then my own relationship history, Ashley's own relationship history, and all the studies and the research that we do. We don't want somebody just kind of falling into the first person that kind of pays attention to you.
Yeah. You don't want that. And we all, and honestly, I think there's so many common mistakes that we all make that we all know are going to happen. And it's okay to make those mistakes. That's the beauty of it. It is perfectly okay for you to make those mistakes, but understanding why you make those mistakes and then growing from them is the real goal. And eventually you'll realize that just because someone said hi to you doesn't mean you have to fall in love with them.
Yeah, because that's part of the whole attachment theory thing that happens. And it's being too anxious to have a relationship. Or we actually had a show on this where you are so anxious to be in a relationship, you hunger for it. And you just want love for love's sake. Like, what are you doing? I mean, if you have an extreme low self-esteem, you're going to attract people with extreme low self-esteem.
Yep.
And if you're high maintenance, more than likely you're going to attract somebody who is high maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever level of need you have is the level of need you are going to attract.
Absolutely. Craziness.
There's an entire medical psychology research paper done on this. It's over 350 pages. If you want to look at it, you can go look at it. What was it? It was Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. Dr. J.E. Roberts, Gottlieb, and Castle. And they wrote on the attachment and security symptoms of depression and the dysfunctional roles of low self-esteem.
Oh my gosh. That sounds triggering. It sounds triggering as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, you can sit there and go and read it for yourself if you want to. It's some very dry.
That sounds good.
Rating.
That gives me a show idea. That gives me a really good show idea. Cool. So I'm definitely down with it, dude. I love it. Love the concept, man. I think this is so good. Like, we really broke into something very true. Something that is so difficult to grasp, and I think we're breaking intimacy down in a really good way. I know we're almost out of time, but I think this is the beginning. You know what I mean? This is the beginning of understanding what intentional intimacy is. And I think if you can grasp this, and I would, if I was listening to this episode and I wasn't talking on it and I didn't have to listen to my own voice, I would listen to this a couple times. And I think there's a few things you need to take away, but there's also some things that you probably want to adjust depending on what you're looking for in a relationship. So I'd love for you guys to write in and talk to us about it and really tell us how you feel about this intimacy. And if you have any questions, please don't sit there and think about them. As soon as you have them, reach out to us, because we enjoy this topic so much. We've created an entire show of it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it's so important. So if you listen to this, like I said, go back and re-listen and really listen to the points that John and I are making and really try and understand what we mean. And if you have any questions, please write in.
Yeah, because we don't just make this stuff up. We back everything up.
Yep.
And every study that is out there, and even the people that I've interviewed, go back, I think, early season 2. Part of what I did was I went out to retirement homes and I interviewed couples who have been married for like 50, 60, 70 years and found out what it was that they did in order to survive and stay married that long. And between them and the studies that I've researched, when you are in a secure relationship, meaning that you are in an intentional, intimate relationship, you actually become more bold, more innovative, and happier.
Happier. That's the whole goal. I mean, being bold and innovative is wonderful, but God, don't you just want to be, you know what I mean? Like, you ever have a really bad day and you're like, I just want to fucking be happy.
Yeah, but you become bolder in your intimacy and you become bolder in your intention of willfully creating this relationship with the other person. You become more innovative as far as trying to figure out how you can be more intimate and how to move the relationship further and become even more, or knowing the other person more. And they will do the same thing back to you. And both of you start becoming more happy. And that's when the magic is happening and your relationship is absolutely mind blowing.
We can't stop talking about how amazing it is, because it really does give you goosebumps when you think about having, and you may have already had a fantastic relationship, but that doesn't mean that's the last one. People grow apart. People fuck up. And that's just the simple fact is, some of you are probably listening saying, I had that with my ex already. What the fuck am I going to do? Let me be honest with you. As someone who's fucked up plenty of things in their life, there's always a second chance. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like, I think that's another thing.
But you can take those lessons learned and apply them to the next. Because
I think that's what happens to a lot of people. They get into that one really good relationship and they're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, because I had a relationship that lasted a long time, and we simply stopped communicating, and the relationship broke down. But I learned from it, and I was like, okay, so this is where I fucked up. This is what I need to do. Really, isn't this what you want? Isn't this what you deserve? Is being able to rewire how you think about relationships, being able to know who you are so you know what you are looking for, the type of relationship that you want, then attracting the person that you want, and being able to really have this intentional intimacy with that person.
Exactly.
Potentially it can last a lifetime.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, that's okay. Like I said, I think I want that to be clear, because I'm sure someone's listening like, I had that, blah, blah, blah. I know that you had it, and I'm sure one of them, either you screwed it up, they screwed it up, or things just fizzled out. And that's okay, but you can learn from them. Just, get it back. And it's don't give up.
Yes, because what we are all about is helping you start to date the individuals who will meet your needs and make you feel significant.
Yeah.
And you will want to become a better person.
Yep.
And once you start doing that, it starts feeding off of everything starts feeding off of each other. And one thing just feeds off the next, feeds off the next, feeds off the next. So it's a series of small little steps that by themselves, you might get a couple results, but it's not going to last.
No.
But if you do all of them and you start building on top of it, that's where you start attracting the people that you want to attract.
And if you think we're full of shit, here, I got a challenge for you. Try it. You think we're, if you're like, that's easier said than done. You don't believe me, try it. If you don't believe us, then try it. And worst case scenario, you develop an intimate relationship. Best case scenario, you're happy in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I want, because I know it's hard, and me and John talk a lot about, other relationship trainings and materials and things people want and all those things. But realistically, it comes down to you having to try it and you having to go out there and do it. And we're going to be able to teach you how to go out there and do it too.
We can sit here, we can talk theory all day long, but that's the problem that I have with a lot of the courses that are out there. Some of these courses, they'll teach you how to meet somebody. Some of these courses, they'll teach you how to repair, quote unquote, repair a relationship that you're in. Some of them, or the vast majority of them, they'll talk you up. You'll really think you can go out and conquer the world until the world slaps you in the face. And I've been through those courses. Going to listen to a motivational speaker. You're motivated.
Yeah, you get all souped up.
Yeah.
No action plan.
No action plan. They're like, just go out and do it. How?
Gassing you up for no reason.
You'll know how.
Right.
No,
right, you'll feel it. Like, no, did you feel that someone's attracted to you, but you need an action plan. And don't worry, we got that coming to you too.
Or possibly the worst one. And this is where you actually have somebody who is your quote unquote coach. Hello, Pickup Artist World. You can go out and you can learn all this stuff, and they'll take you out and they'll show you how to do everything. But once you no longer have the coach sitting there on your shoulder, you go out and try and do it by yourself, and you're like, fuck, this isn't working, because they're not whispering in your ear the next step.
Yeah, like what's that? What is it? Cyrano de Bergerac, where he whispers from the bushes. Pretty sure it's like a Shakespeare thing.
So that doesn't work. What you need is not a system. A system is going to teach you one thing.
Right.
This more like, how did I describe this earlier? You can go out and you can learn how to build a car. Okay.
Right.
Here's the system, and you're going to wind up with a Honda Civic. And every time you try and use the system, all you're going to end up with is a Honda Civic.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can actually teach you everything, and you can build a skateboard, a bicycle, a big rig, a tank, because
I like that.
You have all the tools, and you can sit there and build whatever it is you want to build.
Yes. That's brilliant. That is brilliant. A car metaphor or a system metaphor. I think that is fucking brilliant, dude. I love that so much. And it's so true, because we're talking about developing deep intimacy right now, but we can also, if you're like, hey guys, I just want a casual relationship, where do I start? No problem. I mean, like I said, it's what you want.
Because I've applied this not only to relationships, but I've also applied it to getting hired for different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to lead not only small groups, but large groups of people. I mean, I think my record so far is leading a full team of over 1,000 different people. Every person knew what their job was.
Right.
But that was me talking to different people and developing a relationship with them, learning their strengths, learning their weaknesses, and knowing where they fit within the organization. That was extremely time consuming and draining, but I did it. But I can also walk into any position, like the current position that I have. I think I actually talked about this on a show. I walked in, I answered 2 questions into the interview, and we talked about bullshit for the rest of the time, and they hired me on the spot.
So, and that's why I said in the beginning, like, intimacy is not just relationship-wise. Intimacy is it can be almost, I guess shallow is not the word, but you know what I mean? It can be surface level intimacy that you really develop, and it just makes people want to be around you.
Yeah, I walk into the grocery store, and one of the cashiers, who is like, seems to always be there, she comes up. I know about her family. I know about her kids. I know about the illness that her uncle is going through. I know pretty much everything about her life. And these are like little short 5-minute conversations while I'm checking out. And she's like, oh, hey. I mean, and if she's not actually behind the register, she comes up, she walks from across the store to come and say hi to me. I didn't do anything special. I just said hi, and I was like, I always see you here. And so starts the conversation, so starts the relationship. But I get better service from different, like I take my jackets in and have them tailored. The tailor knows me, and I get better service and better quality from that tailor because I have a relationship with that tailor. I don't just drop it in and go, fix this.
Right. Yeah, and not only that, it's just people look forward to seeing you. You look forward to, like, I think half the battle of life is waking up and wanting to see everybody that you're going to see that day.
Yeah.
I think if you wake up and you go to work and you're like, I fucking hate this place, it's going to be bad. But if you're able to develop these relationships with your coworkers, with your tailor, hell, with your cobbler, with your hat maker, whoever the fuck you have. Apparently everybody in my world's like is a 16th century like British monarch, but whatever. But you know, like if you're able to do that, you're able to create these. Life is just worth living, and it is so much fun.
Right. And even the person in my HR department, I work nights, she works days, but every now and then I will stop in because I have something I need to take care of. She pops up from behind the desk. Hi, John. But she looks at somebody else that is standing behind me, and she's like, what's your name? But she remembers me. Listen to our episode on becoming unforgettable.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we can show you how to do is becoming unforgettable. And again, that goes along with intention. Developing a relationship with intention.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
I think we've milked it. I think we've got it. We've got it all like I said, guys, if you have any questions, if you have any issues, if you just want to know, if you're just curious, freaking write to us. We want to write you back. We want to get you involved in the show. After all, the show would not be possible, literally. And we are doing phenomenal numbers. So, of course, thank you so much for those of you who are back with us. Those of you who are new to us. If you are new, I'm Ashley. That's John. We're awesome people.
Yes. And we are your guide to dating, relationships, love, and everything else that life can possibly throw at you. And with that, we will talk to you on the next one.
That's all for this episode of the Girls Ask Guys show, where all of us learn to master this thing called life together. For more answers to your questions on life and love, be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. And head to girlsaskguyshow.com to submit your questions for a future episode or apply to be a guest on the show. Good luck out there, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Girls Ask Guys show.